All right, we are excited to share that we are all set for our next edition in the U.S. and Dubai. Make sure to visit our booth close to registration and get in touch with either Justine or Shabit to learn more about our upcoming events here in the U.S. as well as Dubai. Next up, we have Steve Simmons, the co-founder and chief operating officer of NILENT, here to share his unique insights on the topic, education and the coexistence of altruism and mercenary capitalism. This conversation will explore the dynamic interplay between the noble pursuit of education and the drive of capitalist markets. Steve will guide us through the nuances of marrying altruistic goals and capitalist efficiency in the world of education, shedding light on how these worlds cannot only coexist, but thrive together. Now, without further ado, please welcome our keynote speaker, Steve.
Thank you. Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate everybody who decided to come back after lunch, and y'all look pretty awake, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I'd like to start by thanking the team at Education 2.0 for allowing me to be here today. It's a great opportunity. I've really actually enjoyed a lot of the earlier panelists, and it's nice seeing everyone kind of playing off each other. Before I get started, I'm going to ask a small favor. I told my parents I was finally living my dream of getting my first Vegas residency. I'm gonna need y'all to come here every day for about the same time, but in different outfits. I just send them pictures so it looks like I've been here for a week, and that would make it easier. So the fun thing about having a conference in Vegas is it really infuses some really, really powerful emotions, right? Dreams, money, opportunity. And now we could all sit here and say that we're focused on networking, we're focused on riveting content like this, but in the end, it's about monetizing it. How do we synthesize what we're doing here? How do we take it back to our respective endeavors and try to figure out a way to monetize it and make it something that we can go, okay, great, we got something out of this, now let's do something with it. And you know what? There's really nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with taking a capitalist approach to an altruistic endeavor like education, right? And it's one of those things where we look at it and say, okay, can the two peacefully coexist? I'd like to think they can. You know, when we describe our company, when we describe NILENT and what we do, NILENT stands for NIL Enterprise Solutions. Our job is providing education around financial literacy, social media savvy, and mental health well-being for college athletes now that they're able to be compensated as college athletes, which is something that's new. And we'd like to look at it and say there's opportunities here that are great. But when we started launching the company, we looked back to an idea that was something that kind of took from my previous career. I spent over, we'll say 25 years, give or take, in the financial world, in hedge funds and private equity, and looking at early stage companies. Does anybody know what the number one idea is if you're evaluating an early stage company, if you're launching a company? Cash flow is good. More simple than that, are they solving a problem, right? Look at a problem, create a solution. Can I look at this company and say they are doing something that is solving a problem? Find a problem that you can create a solution to. Now, when you look at that and say, okay, that's very easy on the surface, and that makes a lot of sense. But sometimes it's not as straightforward as you think. Now, we look at that in the ed tech space and say, okay, this is something that we want to be able to do. How does that apply for us? Now, for NILENT specifically, the Supreme Court came out with a ruling that is allowing for college athletes to capitalize on their name, their image, and their likeness. So that means video games, right? EA Sports creates a video game on college football or college basketball. Previously, those kids would be represented in those games, but they weren't compensated for using their image or their names. Now, we've created this industry overnight that any kid, at the heart of NIL, can capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. So any kid in any sport at any university can get paid, which I think is great. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with it. For the past 2 weeks, various schools, the NCAA, have been appearing in front of Congress, trying to lobby for different rules around it, trying to maintain their fiefdom within the NCAA and within the NIL rules. Because you have kids like Livy Dunn here. She's a gymnast for LSU. She's made, I believe, about $4 to $5 million now as an athlete in college. Fantastic. And a lot of that comes from sponsorships, which is great. Corporate sponsors find what she's doing, and they think, great, we want to get behind her. She's fantastic on social media. There are kids like the Cavender twins, Chase Griffin. There are numerous kids making millions upon millions of dollars. The reality is, when you get past those big headline numbers, the average college athlete makes $80. That's it, right? When you spread it out among all the college athletes, $80 is approximately what these kids will earn. Now, for me, as the former shortest and fattest D1 athlete at my university, $80 would have gone a nice way towards my beer and pizza fund. That's fine. But, that's just not necessarily the case all the way around. We see a problem here. Find a problem, create a solution. Over 30% of all professional athletes file for bankruptcy within 10 years of retiring. Over 60% of NBA players file for bankruptcy within 5 years of retiring. Over 80% of NFL players file for bankruptcy within 3 years of retiring. So do we see a problem? Yeah. What do we think that problem is? Let's table that for a moment. According to a University of Michigan study, approximately 30% of all student athletes suffer from some form of mental health imbalance. Now, that number jumps to approximately 70% if there's a season-ending injury or a career-ending injury. And in that latter group, 10% of those kids or more experience suicidal ideation. Now, last year, there was a stretch in April, almost a dozen college athletes killed themselves. And you didn't hear about it. You may have heard about it if you were in one of the states where it happened. If you were in California or Virginia or Mississippi or New Jersey. You might have heard about that one student. Now, if this happened on one campus, it'd be in the headlines for weeks. But you don't hear about it. So again, we see a real problem. That's a problem right there. 90% of college athletes who know they are struggling with some sort of mental health imbalance still don't seek out any form of treatment. And why is that? It's not about debating, who's at fault. It simply comes down to a lack of education, all right? I come from an era, I'm of a certain age, where we had home ec, right? You had shop, you had wood class, you had sewing, and that's all gone away. But what if we sort of modernized it now and started focusing on bringing things back that are relevant? Financial literacy, social media savvy, mental health well-being. How do we destigmatize these things and make them relevant and compelling and engaging for these kids? That's altruism. Coming up with something that's going to help these kids. And the problem is, examples like this. Jervon Dexter played for University of Florida. In his senior year, he got his first NIL deal, $400,000. It's fantastic money. The team that approached him was a team, and they treated him like family. So he didn't need an attorney to sign off on the contract. We're family. So what do you think happens? Jervon signs with the Chicago Bears and gets his first paycheck. Looks at his paycheck and goes, hey, where's all my money? They go, oh, your team has it. He's, no, 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 no. I am my team. They go, well, you might want to go talk to your other team. He signed away 30% of all of his earnings in perpetuity. Yeah, beyond the NFL, beyond anything he does, he signed that away. Now, it doesn't mean that the company that he worked with aren't a bunch of vultures, right? What kind of business model is that going to be once something like that gets out? No one's going to work with you again. But that's neither here nor there. What would have cost him approximately $2,000 to $3,000 to have an attorney read through and go, hey, this line here, this doesn't work. Now will cost him at least 6 figures to try to get out of it. And why? Because there wasn't the education, right? It's not a coach's fault. It's not the agent's fault. The agents don't care. So it has to come from some level. If you're able to build something and find that confluence of mercenary capitalism and altruism, you can build something that's a mission. It can be passion-driven, and you can do good. And there's nothing wrong with doing good and doing well in the process, right? I like to think about, Michael Douglas in Wall Street, right? That line, he's holding a mic in the audience. It's like, greed, for the lack of a better word, is good. It's right. And he's right within reason. If you're launching a company, if you're building a company, you're not building it hoping that you don't lose money. You're hoping that you're going to make money in the process. There's nothing wrong with that. But you want to be able to do something that you can get behind, that you can look yourself in the eyes in the morning, right, and feel good about what you're doing, perhaps. So that's what drove us. When we launched our platform, we looked around and said, okay, what can we do to make a difference in this space? We know that these athletes need financial literacy. We know they need social media savvy. We know they need mental health well-being. There we go, I'm gonna break the mic. I am not the guy as a middle-aged white male to say, hey, this is what's going to work to all 600,000 student athletes. And for that matter now, add on the 8 million high school athletes, because NIL is now being allowed in high school. So when you look at this and say, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, okay, we're just going to start writing them checks and expect that they're going to do the right thing with that. Yeah, exactly. Again, as I alluded to before, I have a 16-year-old. I don't have enough just for men hair coloring to keep the grays out, watching the decisions he makes on a regular basis. I don't know what drives him, but he becomes a very good cautionary tale for me, for everyone else, when we walk through these things. So we went out and we built this platform, and what it is at its heart is, call it like the love child of TED Talks and Masterclass. Short form video content, 5 to 6 minutes long, because that's, again, all these kids can handle, on topics as credit scores and credit reports, understanding what a budget is, understanding what a trust is, understanding why you need an attorney to sign off on a contract, understanding the power of social media, understanding when you should step away from social media. But everything has been driven by us talking first with professional athletes, saying, what would have helped you? What would have helped you coming out of college and going into the pros? What would have helped you now that you're in the pros? What would that have gotten you? And then talking to college athletes and saying, what do you need to hear? What's confusing you? We were at the NACDA conference, which is the National Athletic Directors Association conference. By the way, 7,500 of your closest friends. You talk about a zoo for a conference. This, 7,500 people there. And I listened, and I won't name the university, but one of the most well-known athletic directors was holding court, and this man makes a good $10 million a year, I think, at least, and explaining to people that as long as his boys didn't make over $10,000 a year, they weren't liable for taxes. Yeah, there you go. Now, I said, far be it from me to interrupt you here, I'm going to say that number's closer to $600. He goes, no, you're wrong. Well, we'll be talking to you guys very shortly then. So when you have people guiding them who don't know, you can't just hand off kids to a coach and go, okay, It's all yours. You got it. You can't send a kid off to college going, hey, you've got this. It's all figured out. So we went and we talked through all these people. And as a result, we put together this platform, and it's taught by professional athletes, entrepreneurs, and industry experts. It's a representational array of individual tutors for these kids. And if you think of it, it's in the sense of being, you know, as my partner so eloquently described it, if you walk into one of those college auditoriums and you have a great lecture hall where there's, 500 seats, but instead the student's the one on the stage and those seats are filled with all the professors and you have access to every one of them. Okay, you're building something there. Now, is it for profit? Oh yes, it is. We're mercenary capitalists at heart. That's fine. But what we wrestled with was, can we still be altruistic in the process? It's great that we're teaching this very needed subject, but what are we doing here? So when we have kids like Tank Ledger, he was a linebacker for Northwestern University. He, first kid to go from Northwestern to the World WWE, right? They have a very huge accelerator program for kids. And he's on there just talking about his transition, talking about what worked for him and how great it was and how it all worked. So, okay. But what was happening is we learned that just by building this, the old field of dreams, if you build it, they will come approach, doesn't necessarily work. So we took a different approach. Our platform is free. We're free to every D1, D2, D3 university, to every community college, to every prep school, to every high school. This level of education is too important to not get out to these kids. Okay? We can't expect the kids to pay for it. And, despite college endowments and the money made in college athletics, we can't expect that the universities are going to pay for it. Because again, when you have a new industry, you have all the vultures who start circling. And then everybody has a solution, everybody has something, and explain to the schools, you have to have this, and you have to pay $100,000 or else. We're taking a different approach. We're altruistic. We're free. Now, obviously, some of you are going to say, well, that sounds great. How do you pay for it? How do you support this? Well, it's a noble endeavor, right? We've got a tech product that obviously costs a decent amount of money to build out. We have a team to support, and we obviously have some core backers and investors that we need to satisfy. What we do is a unique take on things. We work with corporate sponsors who want to be able to access the 18 to 24-year-old demographic. It's an incredibly important demographic for them. We have the ability through our platform to give them access. So when these kids watch one of these short-form videos, at the end of the video is a quiz. At the end of the quiz, a rewards page pops up. Congratulations, your hard work paid off. You just got a $20 gift card to Dunkin' Donuts. You got a $20 gift card to Chick-fil-A. You got 1,000 air miles to Delta Airlines. In order for them to accept that, they have to put out a social media post thanking that corporate sponsor. Yeah, exactly. Oh. So what happens? Corporate sponsors are now getting a grassroots influencer campaign. They're also getting access to these kids. Now, I think this kind of approach works really well. Thank you, Chick-fil-A, for sponsoring me on my journey to financial literacy. Thank you, New York Life, for sponsoring me on my journey. I've been with the same bank for over 40 years because they were the same bank at the same that my first job worked with and put checks through. So I worked with them. What is that cost of acquisition for a 40-year relationship with a client if you're a bank, or if you're a mobile data provider, or if you're an insurance company? Right? I've been with the same bank 40 years. I've done multiple mortgages, car loans, alimonies. I'll probably do another because it's Vegas. It's neither here nor there. But there is a value in that. Now, when they do that, does it mean that the corporations are now being vultures and purely mercenary capitalists? Yes and no. So say we partner with a group like BetterHelp, and we have an executive from BetterHelp on there who's talking about mental health well-being and teaching kids that, you know what, it's okay to walk away from social media every once in a while. right? We all know social media can be just an unbelievably toxic cesspool. And we can all get very caught up in it. But most of us, not me so much, but most of us have that ability and wherewithal to walk away from it when we want to, or push it aside. 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they don't have those coping skills yet. They feel the need to engage with every negative, engagement. Now, if you think of it, we're literally in the heart of March Madness right now. It's just about to start. What do you think the effect is on an 18 or 19-year-old who misses the foul shot or misses the last shot of the game that would have propelled his team to the next level of the tournament? Or who drops a pass in the Rose Bowl and they lose the game? Or misses a punt to join the Walker Cup team? That's going to weigh on them, right? And we're not empathetic on social media. What if they could work with someone like Experian and understand what a credit score is and what a credit report is? What if they could understand that opening up 5 credit cards your freshman year because a cute co-ed offers you a t-shirt is not exactly sound financial advice? I probably paid more in interest on my credit cards than I did on my student loan when all was said and done. I didn't know any better. But what if these kids were able to learn that a credit score actually matters? That you're going to graduate and you're going to want to rent an apartment, and they're going to look at your credit score. Or you're going to buy or lease a car, and they're going to look at your credit score. Things like that are going to matter. Now, if I'm a brand, I'm looking at this going, okay, we're mercenary capitalists. We're getting our audience. But we're also able to do some good in the process, right? We're getting our names out there. Okay, sure. But some brands are looking at it and saying, hey, we're an insurance company. I apologize if any of y'all are insurance agents. But we're boring. And we're not exactly a hotbed of kids coming to our companies looking for jobs. But we want these athletes, right? They're going to fit into our culture, and as I mentioned it earlier, right? They're resilient. They know how to lose. They're team players. They're goal-oriented. What if we could use a platform like this to be able to attract kids to us? And so we'll work with brands who will reach out and say, hey, show us D1 accounting majors. Show us D1 neuroscientists who are athletes. Because you're probably not going to be pro in a sport. 99.6% of kids who play sports in college do not go pro. So we're looking at it, trying to figure out how can we help them beyond the 4 years of college. That's our mantra, right? NIL is not 4 years, it's 40 years. What can we do to teach these kids now while you're in school that's going to help you for your future? Because if you're an athlete and you're able to, compete and excel at the highest levels, if you're theoretically a student and doing well in school, now also perhaps you've launched your own business, or you're doing commercial work, or you're a brand ambassador, and you're engaging with people on social media, and you're doing things that are engaging. If I'm a corporate recruiter, I'm watching this, and I'm seeing how well you can navigate these things. These are really appealing skill sets. But what's more, over 70% of female C-suite executives all played a sport in college. Over 70%. Now, if I'm a company like a Nuveen or a SoFi or any large firm that's out there right now saying, hey, I want to help pad the way for the next generation of board members, for C-suite executives, if I truly want to get behind the mission of empowering female athletes or the next generation of female entrepreneurs, I need to start now. I need to be able to do something. So if I can get in behind a program like this and help lay that groundwork and pathway for them, then I'm doing something good. That is altruistic right there. And if it means that we're able to get kids jobs, again, we're succeeding beyond our mission. And we're pretty happy about that. But there's other issues too. And this one's a tough one to talk about here in Vegas, so I don't want to get in any trouble. There's this little thing known as sports betting. I'm sure you all saw the big sports book downstairs. And in fact, I think I saw some of you at the sports book, and we're not going to discuss that. Now, again, I'm from a certain generation where you picked up a phone, maybe a beeper, and you connected with somebody, and there were illicit exchanges of brown paper bags either going or coming. More often they were going. And don't look like you have a blank face like you don't know what I'm talking about right now, okay? Because you all have been there at some point. Now, when you think about it today, when you look at what's going on with the amount of advertising, everybody's got a phone. They can pick up an app on their phone, make bets from their phone. What do you think happens if you're a college athlete who has the ability to influence a game and has access to that? Right? Maybe you drop a pass. Maybe you miss a couple of shots. Maybe you miss a block. These things can happen. Yeah, I know, right? There's only a few of us in the crowd that know who this is. Pete Rose, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, banned for life from the Hall of Fame because he was betting on his team to win. Wasn't trying to throw the games. He was literally betting on his team to win. He's never going to get into Cooperstown. Now, if you're a college athlete, you're going to lose, well, you're not going to play your sport anymore. You'll lose your scholarship. You probably have to leave your college. But then your overall athletic program could be suspended, could be held out from future play. You could lose scholarship opportunities. The repercussions are there. So from us, from an altruistic standpoint, if we can help just one of these kids along the way stay on the right path, right? So it would seem incongruous in a place like Caesars to say, hey, let's have an executive from Caesars down here to talk about the dangers of sports betting, right? And when you think about it, it's kind of like cutting your nose to spite your face. A company whose sole purpose is generating revenue through gambling to talk about the dangers of gambling. Or is it a useful PSA? Are they generating brand awareness while doing something good in the process? Sure, it's a gray area. But it's the same way we work with a very large beverage brand, talking about the dangers of over-celebrating after a win, or drinking and driving, or the basic stuff. Yes, you're getting your brand out there, but you are doing a PSA. And if it means in doing so, they're able to support our mission of getting our platform out for free, it helps. And we'd like to think we're doing something that aligns with our core missions. And so for a lot of you folks, I'm sure a lot of y'all are founders or influential in the start of a company, right? And we all start with a mission statement, right? What's going to drive us? And you have that alignment. Nike's to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. All right, there's some commercial purpose behind it, but you have to admit, you can't think of sports and not at some point tie in Nike, right? The swoop is ubiquitous. Just do it. It's there. So they've done a good job with that. LinkedIn, to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. Now, I know we have all been there, doom scrolling over LinkedIn, a bunch of corporate spies doing research, sales. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all DM me before the conference. I don't know how many of y'all are going to unfollow me after this, but that's neither here nor there. But it makes sense. Why? Because it's authentic. It resonates with what they're doing. So even for us, and NIL isn't 4 years, it's 40. We view ourselves as being cautionary tales, as disruptors, as educators, as folks who are trying to elevate the playing field for all athletes and doing it in a way so that mercenary capitalism and altruism isn't something we have to speak about. It's embedded in our DNA. We know what we're doing every day. We're looking to push things forward, and we're looking for ways to do it in line with other people. So I'll ask you this, to humor me. Close your eyes, envision that one niche, that one part of your business that you can propel forward, that allows you to be more altruistic, to put more good out in the world, to drive your mission forward. It's not always about the bottom line, but it can be confluential with it. Each one of us has the opportunity to be our own alchemists, mixing and combining altruism and mercenary capitalism to drive a mission forward. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to succeed and get that passion and that mission forward, then you have the ability to be a true instrument of change. So with that, I thank you guys for your time today. Thank you very much. So the name itself, NILENT, is short for NIL Enterprise Solutions. And NIL meaning names, image, and likeness. Now, where we always get in trouble is everyone pronounces it NILENT. I'm like, it's silent with an N. But, it becomes, anytime there's a new space, you see all the companies now, they all talk about, we're AI. You sell iced tea. Yeah, but we also think of it in AI. Like, in every new environment, and every time there's a new industry, everyone kind of ties into it, and you want to have that quick recognition of what ties into it. So we try to keep it that way. For us as True Enterprise Solutions, because we partner with a bunch of different companies in a different way, we're able to offer turnkey solutions across education, compliance, brand engagement, but we do it in a way that's always focused on being true advocates for the athletes. Yes, sir. Why are they on Capitol Hill right now? Yeah, okay, so I think it was Ronald Reagan said one of the worst phrases you could ever hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Right? That's literally what's going on right now. The NCAA, for years, has had a fiefdom, right? They've controlled every aspect of college sports. Now all of a sudden NIL comes in and they're losing control, they're losing revenue. Like, well, this is horrible. We can't have these kids getting paid like this if we're not getting paid. So they're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to control every component of it. Now, on the one hand, yes, there is a need for a cohesive set of rules and regulations around this. But what's going to work for University of Alabama is not going to work for Western Michigan. It's not going to work for SUNY Buffalo. It won't work for Cornell. So trying to find a happy medium is necessary. Trying to set up rules about disclosure. So at some point, it is interstate commerce. You do need some sort of level of federal intervention, but really right now I liken it more to marijuana rules, right? Every state has different rules. So I have a son, and as a typical very proud dad, he's the best athlete in the world. Now we live in Florida. Georgia allows for NIL on the high school level. So I know I'm going to move my son to Georgia now so he can get paid, so actually dad can get paid, but that's neither here nor there. Oh, that's what it's all about. I'm riding his coattails. So what happens? Florida goes, my God, we need NIL in high school. So now you have to, so it just goes like that, right? But now all of a sudden they're saying, we don't need rules. Literally 3 weeks ago they said, you know what? We don't need to enforce this anymore. Why not? Because what could possibly go wrong? So now all the states are repealing their NIL rules and just saying, ah! So we're trying to be at least some level of consistency just in terms of making sure when we spoke to several state legislatures saying, do us a favor, you have NIL, that's great. Let's allow for a provision for a mandatory minimum amount of hours for mental health well-being and financial literacy, right? So in the state of New York now, you can't play a D1 sport unless you have 5 hours of financial literacy, which is great. But what happens? A lot of these schools will then come in and say, all right, well, we've got this alum in today. He works for H&R Block, and he's going to talk to you for the next 5 hours on taxes. These kids, So by doing a platform the way we have it, where it's 5-minute bites, where they can literally take it on the bus when they're going to games and go, okay, I can bang out a couple of modules, maybe learn something, and oh my gosh, I can actually make something in the process. But doing it in a way that's got to be engaging with these kids. And again, having other athletes who've been in their shoes, who look like them, who work with them, because that's what's going to work. Because the moment you lose that engagement, all bets are off. Yes, ma'am.
Are you developing protocols for student privacy?
Are we developing protocol for students privately?
Data privacy?
Yes, we think it's very important to maintain. We don't want stuff just getting out there. We don't want every kid's name or address or phone mail, anything just getting out there.
Well, just with the corporations that they're tied to, like they get a $20 Chick-fil-A
Gift card?
gift card, and Chick-fil-A has a lot of their data.
That's correct. That's what's going on in NIL now.
They're agreeing to that?
Yes, they have to sign off on it. They have to sign off on contracts because you're basically getting an influencer contract, right? So, and again, I use my 16-year-old as the role model for this. I will watch him watching someone else play a video game. I don't understand this. But that's what he does. But that other person playing the video game is being paid to play that video game and being sponsored by it, right? So he's an influencer. I still don't understand the whole influencer space, but it's commercials. So just like a regular commercial contract, you're agreeing that if I'm going to accept this payment from you, I'm giving you rights to my name and image for this. Now, they can't go and then run off with it and start running other campaigns. It's for that one thing. Now, if they want to come back and say, hey, you have obviously liked this product, you've used it, we're going to offer you something else, you're going to do more with us, that's fine. We don't negotiate with that. That's separate between the athlete and the brand, and we'll always point them to attorneys or other people to sign off on things. But it's very important to be very careful with that. You don't want stuff just running amok.
Can athletes use your platform without agreeing?
No, ma'am. No. Everything's kind of, there's a few levels of privacy, and including, we also make sure that the coaches have an administrative tool to monitor who's doing what modules, what they've completed, what rewards they've accepted. So we have to make sure compliance is such a big part of this. And again, it also ties into the idea of kids getting taken advantage of, right? So we love the idea that kids can actually do something with this, because when you think of it, a lot of these kids, the majority of these kids who are on scholarship, I look at N'Kobe Dean, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, comes from a town of 500 in Mississippi. His mom was his agent, his uncle was his finance manager. The moment he got drafted, hey man, I got a chain of car washes. Hey man, I got these laundromats. And they're all coming out of the woodwork. And I looked at N'Kobe, I was like, hey man, listen, I'm not your guy. I'm going to introduce you to Ndamukong Suh. He's doing all the right things. Talk to him and learn from him. Okay? He's protecting himself, because these kids, people don't realize the average career in the NFL, 4 or 5 years. You're coming out, you're only 28, 29 years old. I mean, you look at these guys on TV and they look like they've gone through World War II, but they're still kids, right? And there's only so many jobs in broadcasting, right? There's only so many jobs with teams as coaches. So what are you going to do when you grow up? So we're trying to help them. That's our biggest focus, is getting the life skills when they move forward that they can actually turn into something, or at least be protected. Nope, I'm being told no. I'll talk to you afterwards. It's okay. Thank you guys again. Appreciate you.